U.S. vegetable prices increased by a whopping 38% in November, but they say inflation is under control. And this beautiful picture with the vegetables, I just simply love lettuce. I simply love broccoli. Today I had Korean kimchi dumplings for the first time in my life with sweet pepper sauce. It was just fabulous. Now, the mainstream media is trying really hard to convince all of us that inflation will soon no longer be a problem. But meanwhile, food prices continue to soar to absolutely absurd levels. In fact, we just learned that vegetable prices increased by a whopping 38% in November. When I originally saw that number, I thought that it must represent a change from 12 months ago, but that's not the case. According to the Bureau of Labor Statistics, vegetable prices jumped 38.1% from October to November, and they're up a total of 80.6% over the past 12 months. The price of vegetables from producers shot up 38% on a monthly basis in November and jumped over 80% compared to November 2021, according to the U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics' latest Producer Price Index. Even after reading that, a lot of you are still going to have a very difficult time believing that these figures are actually real. So I would encourage you to go to the official BLS website and see the numbers for yourself. It is not an internet rumor, it's real. And as you can see from this chart, egg prices are also going completely nuts. The price of eggs shot up 26% last month. And over the past 12 months, the price of eggs is up an astonishing 244%. The bird flu is the primary reason why eggs have become so expensive. More than 50 million chickens and turkeys in the United States are already dead from that, and it's likely that millions more will die in the months ahead. As for vegetables, the endless drought in the western half of the nation has absolutely crippled production. In fact, one recent survey discovered that 74% of farmers in 15 western states saw a reduction in harvest in 2022. A recent survey about the drought by the American Farm Bureau Federation of more than 650 farmers in 15 western states found that 74% saw a reduction in harvests and 42% switched crops. No matter how high the Federal Reserve hikes interest rates, food prices are going to continue to go up. We all have to eat, though, and it appears that food supplies will get even tighter in 2023. As domestic supplies of key crops, including corn, soybeans, and wheat, are expected to remain snug in 2023, according to the U.S. Department of Agriculture, the agency is forecasting U.S. corn supplies to fall to a decade low before the 2023 harvest, while soybean stocks were seen at a 7-year low, and wheat ending stocks are forecast at the lowest in 15 years. I'm particularly concerned about the outlook for wheat. The two largest wheat exporters in the world are projected to have very disappointing harvests in the months ahead, and this should deeply alarm all of us. While the flooding in Australia, the world's second largest wheat exporter, I didn't even know Australia exported that much wheat, in recent weeks has caused extensive damage to the crop which was ready for harvest, the severe drought is expected to shrink Argentina's wheat crop by almost 40%. This will reduce global wheat availability in the first half of 2023. A lack of rainfall in the U.S. plains, where the winter crop ratings are running at the lowest since 2012, could dent supplies for the second half of the year. So what does all this mean? The bottom line is that the global food crisis that erupted in 2022 is likely to intensify quite a bit more in 2023. Food prices have already risen to very painful levels, and those that are being hit the hardest are those that live in the poorest countries. With food prices climbing to record peaks this year, millions of people are suffering across the world, especially poorer nations in Africa and Asia, already facing hunger and malnutrition. Food imports costs are already on course to hit a near $2 trillion record in 2022, forcing poorer countries to cut consumption. Every single day, more precious people are dropping dead from starvation. Things are particularly bad in nations in Eastern Africa, such as Somalia. More than 200,000 Somalis suffering catastrophic food shortages and many dying of hunger, with that number set to rise over 700,000 next year, according to an analysis by the Alliance of UN agencies and aid groups. But most Americans don't even know that's happening because they don't see images of people suffering, dying in the nightly news. If the mainstream media is not making a big deal out of this crisis, it must not be important, right? Here in the United States, our politicians are trying to paper over our impending problems with borrowing and spending colossal mountains of money. The national debt just crossed $31 trillion threshold, and the Wall Street Journal is reporting that the budget deficit for the month of November alone was a staggering $249 billion. The monthly federal deficit was a record-setting $249 billion in November, $57 billion wider than the same month last year, as Republican control of the House puts the government's finances back in the political spotlight. As the Fed raises interest rates, it's also raising our borrowing costs. So the Fed could only go so far, because if they push rates too high, it will literally collapse the finances of the federal government. What this means is that the Fed is almost out of ammunition in their war against inflation, and our politicians in Washington are ensuring that more inflation is on the way by borrowing and spending money at a pace that we have never seen before. Meanwhile, the bird flu plague, endless droughts, and bitterly disappointing harvests all over the planet will continue to suppress global food production. What all of this means is that food prices are going to go a lot higher than they are now, and many of the famines that we are already witnessing all over the world will become quite serious. Even though food prices are ridiculously high right now, I would encourage you to stock up while you still can. Things are going to get crazier in 2023, and most people will find themselves completely unprepared as conditions deteriorate all around them. It's finally here, Michael's new book titled End Times, now available in paperback for Kindle on Amazon. About the author, he says, "My name is Michael Snyder, and my brand new book entitled End Times is now available on Amazon. In addition to my new book, I've written 6 other books that are available on Amazon, including 7-Year Apocalypse, Lost Prophecies of the Future of America, The Beginning of the End, and Living a Life That Really Matters, Commissions Earned. When you purchase any of these books, you help to support the work that I'm doing, and one way that you can really help is by sending copies as gifts to family and friends. Time is short, and I need help getting these warnings into the hands of as many people as possible. I've published thousands of articles on the Economic Collapse blog, End of the American Dream, and the Most Important News, and the articles that I publish on those sites are republished on dozens of other prominent websites all over the globe. I always freely, happily allow others to republish my articles on their own websites, but I also ask that they include this about the author section with each article. The material contained in this article is for general information purposes only, and readers should consult licensed professionals before making any legal, business, financial, or health decisions. I encourage you to follow me on social media, Facebook and Twitter, and any way that you can share these articles with others is definitely a great help. These are such troubled times and people need hope. John 3:16 tells us about the hope that God has given us through Jesus Christ. For God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten Son, that whosoever believeth in him should not perish, but have everlasting life. If you've not already done so, I strongly urge you to invite Jesus Christ to be your Lord and Savior today. This is by Michael Snyder on the Economic Collapse blog. Please leave your comments, and thank you for your support. Kindly support my Patreon account. The daily posts are 5 videos daily, and they are totally different from what I have on my YouTube channel. Thank you so much for your support and that you find all my content so interesting. You'll find the Patreon account details in the description box below.